Hey everyone, how are you guys today? I'm really excited about our topic for today because it's something that I get asked about all the time. I mean, all the time. Like, if I had a chocolate cake for every time somebody asked me about breast support, I would be like living in my favorite food. Now, you guys know I love chocolate cake. My birthday's tomorrow, so you can all send me chocolate cakes. All right, so today we're talking about 3 words that will improve breast support. And this is a topic, this idea of breast support that, everybody gets stuck on the idea of support. And I don't know why. And I don't know if it's because teachers don't teach support in a way that's understandable. I don't know if it's because they themselves were never really taught, or if they can feel it, but they have a hard time explaining it. And so, more than anything, I get questions about breast support. So today we're going to talk about how 3 little words can have a lasting effect on your breast support. So here's the idea that I want to put forth first, which is this idea that singing, yes, it's an artistic endeavor, but it's also an athletic endeavor, right? In the sense that you're asking your body to do something over and over again for a desired outcome, just like any other athlete, right? Just like, famous pitcher perfecting his throw. I don't know how you pitch a ball, but you get it. It's the same thing. We are athletes and we are asking our body to do something over and over again for a desired outcome. And it is also not just an athletic endeavor, but it's also an intellectual endeavor. Okay. So in my view, it is mind and body. And so words really matter when it comes to mind and body, because it really is the link for how the mind and the body are communicating. The words that we choose to direct ourselves around our vocal technique and our career in general really affect what our body does, for better or for worse. So today, we're going to talk about words, and I'm going to give you 3 examples of how changing one word makes a huge difference in your breast support and how your body is going to implement your technique. And the reason why I have chosen these words and why these to me are the top 3 words for really creating change and up-leveling your singing is that these 3 words foster trust. And that's really important because the habits that usually negatively affect your singing the most are born out of a lack of trust in your instrument and your ability to use it reliably and consistently the way you want. So without trust, you know what it feels like when, sometimes it comes out amazing and it's that great, free, amazing sound. And then other times it just doesn't, and you don't know why. And you don't know what you did. You don't know what you did one time versus the other time because it feels the same to you, and you don't know when it's going to show up or why it's going to show up either way. And without that trust, we feel really unmoored. We feel really insecure, and we're not able to let go energetically. And so then there's a block between us and the audience. So now not only does it not sound good, but we're not connecting and making an impact with the audience the way we want to. So what we do is we compensate by doing things with our body, with our instrument, when we sing that give us the illusion of control. And so what do these things look like, right? It's we push, we squeeze, we hold, we tense, we reach, we force, we control, we manipulate. And all these things are just ways that we're trying to get all up in there to give us the illusion of control. And all of this trying, right? All of this make, force, do, manipulate, push, control, squeeze, hold, right? All those things, all of that excess control that we exert when we don't trust our body's innate ability to make resonant sound, it actually ends up making us sound worse. It's a negative feedback loop. And those of you who follow my content, you may have heard me talk about this negative feedback loop before. The less we trust, the more we try to force and control, the worse we sound. Then we don't sound good. So we have evidence that we suck, which means we trust even less. We push even more, we sound even worse, and it goes, and there's the hamster wheel. There's the merry-go-round. So changing the words we use to direct ourselves around our breath support, it interrupts that feedback loop. It's a pattern interrupt. And so, without further ado, let's talk about what these 3 words are. So the first word that I want you to just love and adopt at all times is the word let, okay? And specifically with respect to breath support, has to do with the inhale. Let the breath come in, okay? Most of us are taught to take a breath. I want you to take that idea, take that phrase, and throw it in the trash. You are no longer allowed to take breaths. Your one concept is to let the breath come in. Think about the difference between the word let and the word take. The word let, it fosters trust around the inhale. Versus take means we have to do something, we have to force something. You guys, I'm always saying to my students in the intensive, your body knows how to breathe. Okay? Your body freaking knows how to breathe. You don't have to take anything. You don't have to grab anything. You don't have to do anything. Okay? Trust that we know how to breathe. And when we do, we can let go. And then the inhale becomes a release. And you guys, that is the number one job for the inhale, is a release. When we release our body, you release your belly, your ribs, your throat, your jaw, all of that space, what we do is we make room for the air to come in. And the laws of physics and law of equilibrium tells us that the air will come in if you make room for it. When the air pressure inside your lungs is different than the air pressure outside the body. So let the breath come in. Release into the inhale. You will get plenty of air. You will get more air than you do if you take the breath. Trust me. Because when you're taking, you're contracting, and now you're constricting the space that the air would come into, so you have less space, so you can get less air. Okay? Let the breath come in instead of tanking up. That tanking up, it comes from insecurity, and it results in less air and more tension. So number 1, change that word. Use the word let. It's going to help you foster so much more trust in the inhale. And then you're starting the next phrase, from a place of freedom and openness and trust, instead of a place of make, force, do, grab. Because if that's what's happening on the inhale, you're taking that into the next phrase, and you're dead in the water before you even saying a note. So let, okay? The second word that I want to talk about is the word flex. So those of you who follow my content, you know that I am really big on this idea of flex the muscles of support instead of contract, okay? These 2 words directionally mean 2 different things. They are both an engagement of the muscles, flex and contract, right? But flex is an expansion of muscles. Contract is a contraction of the muscles of support, okay? So when we, I think a lot of singers are actively taught to contract the muscles of support, meaning the lower abdomen, the ribs, other, muscles sort of in the torso area, especially the abdomen. I think some are active. Some of you might have actually been taught to contract and pull those muscles in. And that's wrong. If you were taught to do that, I'm just not going to mince words. That teacher does not know what they're talking about. We do not ever want to contract and pull those muscles in and up, because what that will do is it will push your diaphragm in and up, which will push air out of your lungs too quickly. Then you're out of breath before you want to be. The sound is airy, and you're going to go into a lot of tension because the body doesn't like that amount of air. It feels out of control. And what do we want? We're going to go to control. So now you're going to control up here to try to prevent all that air coming out. And you're going to be in tension and strain and risk vocal injury. So flex is very different than contract, okay? You may not have been taught to contract. You may have just been taught to, use your diaphragm, and you may not have even really understood what that meant. And so you might actually be contracting in those muscles of support, thinking in doing so you're using your diaphragm, and it's just setting off that domino effect, which I talked about a minute ago. So this idea of flex, this word flex, right? Flex the muscles of support. I can flex the muscles of my hand. I am engaging them, the muscles, in an expansion. rather than engaging them in a contraction, okay? So when we do that, it allows trust that our body is designed to make sound using very little air. Because otherwise, if we're in contract, it's that need to contract in, to push the air up and get the good sound out. And what it does is the exact opposite. It just floods you with a ton of air, creates a lot of tension, and then the sound is not good because it's flooded or it's held and squeezed. So flex the muscles of support rather than contract the muscles of support. So that's the second one. So we've got let the breath come in and flex the muscles of support. The third word that I think is super important in changing perspective around the way we talk to ourselves, around our support when it comes to the technique, is the word implode. Implode. So most people have this idea that as your job as a singer, your job is to get the sound out, right? Like I think a lot of singers have this idea, they got to get the sound out. And they've got to explode it. They got to make it come out. They got to push it out. They got to get it out of their body to the audience. But when we do that, we are right back into make, force, do, push, control. It sabotages the body's efficient design for making sound. You guys, you were born as one of Mother Nature's most effective producers of sound. Babies, infants can cry and cry and cry at the top of their lungs, and they never get tired and they never get hoarse. And it is the most present, resonant sound. Any of you who have kids or have been around infants, I mean, I remember when my daughter was an infant and I would be like, how she can cry for like 6 hours, like when we were doing sleep training or something like that. And they never get hoarse and they never get tired. And it's because we are all born with the most efficient mechanism for producing sound. And the problem is that as we get older and we start to sing, we start thinking we need to like do all this extra stuff, and we get all up in there and we stop trusting the mechanism that we have, that we were given. And so we do all those things. We force, we push, we manipulate, we control, we all those things. And it sabotages the efficient design that we were all been given. And when we're doing all these things, the sound suffers. And it creates tension and strain and risks vocal injury in the ways that I was just talking about. So when we implode the sound, right, we are fostering a trust in our body that we are enough. We don't have to do anything to push the sound out. And directionally, it makes a difference. Implode, right, it takes the sound to you, as opposed to explode. You feel like you have to get it out, and then you're going to do things to push it out, which are counterproductive to the resonance that you want. So once we are in this idea of implode, something changes. Directionally, we are no longer feeling like we have to force this sound out. And what we do is we actually hold the container of our support instead of compromising it, and the sound improves. And not only is it a better sound, but it feels so much better to sing too, because then you're not in the strain and the tension and the discomfort, right? So when we are imploding, we are fostering trust in our body that we are enough, that our sound is enough, that we don't have to force it or make it or push it, that we don't need to explode the sound because there's nothing to prove, because we're in that trust. And we're so much more efficient with our support and with our air because we're not sabotaging to go to that push, to go to that explode, right? We naturally, when you think implode, you naturally lean into that flex feeling I was just talking about. So these are 3 examples of how changing the words changes thinking. Changing thinking changes your singing. You've heard me say it a million times, and I will go to my grave saying this. When you change your thinking, you change your singing. And when you give your mind a new way to communicate with your body around your technique and around your breath support, it is amazing how your singing will change. And I see it every day with the singers in my intensive. In changing the way we think about the inhale, by changing the word we use to direct ourselves when we breathe in, by thinking, let the breath come in, it begins to foster this trust that the body knows how to breathe, Trust that we can let go, make space, let air fill our lungs, and we will get plenty of air. Rather than needing to tank up, which actually results in less air and more tension in the body, right? When we think flex the muscles of support, we trust that our body is designed to make sound using very little air. You guys, it does not take a lot of air. It's a very steady stream. It's a very narrow stream. Anything more than that creates a lot of other issues. So when we think flex the muscles of support, what we're doing is trusting that design that we don't need to use a lot of air, and then we don't need to contract and push inwards to push the air up and in and out to make a good sound. Which leads us to the idea of when we think implode the sound, we are trusting that we are enough. There's no need to explode the sound because we don't have anything to prove. With that trust, we are so much more efficient with our support and our air. We're just bringing the sound to us instead of thinking like it's our job to prove something and get that sound out. So these are 3 examples of how changing the thinking changes the singing. And when you give your mind a new way to communicate with your body around the technique and around the singing, it's truly remarkable how the singing does change. And then from there, how the career changes, because you're now singing in a way that's reliable and that makes a bigger impact and that opens more doors to everything that you want to create. So, if this approach resonates with you, then book a call. I always invite you guys to book a call with me at the end of my life because I don't want you to have to be on this merry-go-round anymore. I don't want you to have to be on this hamster wheel anymore. And we'll get some clarity around how your thinking is affecting your singing. And then I'll share with you the exact strategy that I use with my singers to eliminate a lot of this stinking thinking and these habits that it creates in the body so that you can sing powerfully and freely and dramatically up-level your career. So I'm going to put the link up for you. So if you'd like to book a call with me today, you may. And let me just also give you a little bit. So it's free, first of all, and we talk about 45 minutes long. And, I know so many of you are just done doing it the old way. You've had a lot of training and you're still not seeing the results you want. And the thinking and the limiting beliefs and the things that you're not even aware of are usually the reason why. And so if you really want to get in there and make a change so that you don't have to wonder what if anymore, 10 years down the line in your career, 2 years down the line in your career, what if I dealt with these issues? What if I'd been able to clear the technique issues and the blocks? What if I'd been able to clear all the things going on in the thinking that are holding me back from making my best sound? I know things are strange now because of the virus and stuff, but do you really want to be in the same place you are before this all started in another several months or at the end of the year by the time, things start to get back to normal? Do you really want to be in the same place? Right? You still want to be thinking, what if I'd been able to clear all this stuff? Then how would I be singing? Then how would I be performing? Where would I be performing? How would the audience respond? How would my auditions be going? Would I finally be able to get paid to sing? I don't want you to have to wonder that shit anymore. Pardon me. I know this is G-rated Facebook. I don't want you to have to wonder that anymore. But the thing is, you're never going to know unless you do the work. And if I can help you do that, if you need a guide and the support and a proven system to be able to do that, and that has worked for so many other singers, just like you. I was talking to Grace, my singer who's in my intensive right now, last week on live. If you didn't see it, check it out, because it doesn't take years and years and years to get the gifts of this work. How long does it take to get results? That's what we were talking about last week. It takes about 8 weeks. And I say it over and over and over again, because when we clear the thinking, it's like rocket fuel for the technique and for the performance and for the ability that you guys have to actually make an impact. So if I can help you do that, if you want to get on a call, I will absolutely tell you how, and you'll get some clarity on why you're not there yet and show you what the path is that's worked for so many other singers who were just like you. But I also want to be really clear about what this call is and who it's for. This call is not for singers who are just starting out on their journey. And by that, I mean, if you have not had one-on-one technical training yet, or if you're only just starting out, if you've only had a couple of lessons, right? This is not for you. Get on your technique first. See how far you can go with what you can get, okay? This call is for singers who have had years of training, a ton of work, a lot of experience, who are out there doing this professionally, trying to make it happen, and just not seeing the results of all of that in their singing and in their career. So if that's you, then I would encourage you to book a call if this is resonating. And if you're somebody who is not quite there yet and you're having these issues, find a good teacher, because a lot of the time it just starts with a basic understanding of technique. And once you have that, a lot of the insecurity issues are taken care of. But if you've had that and you're still sidelined, you're still watching other singers get the gig instead of you, you're still watching other singers have hundreds of thousands of hits and spins on Spotify and everything and not you, then book the call. All right, you guys. So have a really awesome weekend. Tomorrow's my birthday, so I'm going to be celebrating with my family. And I really hope that you guys are going to enjoy your summer as things start to change in certain parts of the country and not change in other parts of the country. Keep your eye on the goal. Keep your eye on where you want to be when this is all over. And be brave and courageous to do the work you need to do to get there. Okay, everybody, have a really wonderful day, and I will see you next time.